she appeared at the edge of the dusty trail, her eyes blazing with a fire he thought he'd never see again. "Do you remember me, rancher? I'm the Apache girl you rescued. I've returned to wed you." Before we dive into this tale of courage, redemption, and love that defied time, hit that subscribe button and like the video, because this story will capture your heart and hold it in the wildest corner of the West. The sun was sinking low over the prairie, painting the sky with streaks of orange and crimson as the rancher, Luke McCall, rode along the fence line, surveying his land with practiced eyes. It had been years since that fateful day when a storm bandits and fate had brought a young Apache girl into his life, a girl he had saved from certain death, only to see disappear into the horizon soon after. Luke had thought of her often, a ghost of memory haunting the edges of his heart, but the hardships of ranch life had kept him too busy, too practical to indulge in dreams. Then she appeared, stepping off a worn horse, tall, confident, and radiantly changed by years of hardship and survival. Her voice carried across the wind, soft yet resolute, and it struck him with the weight of 100 memories. "Do you remember me, rancher?" she said. Luke's hands tightened on the reins as his mind spun, trying to reconcile the delicate, brave woman before him with the frightened girl he had once rescued. There was something in her gaze, an unwavering determination that made his pulse quicken, a confidence tempered by suffering, a quiet fire that refused to be dimmed. The ranch seemed to shrink around them as the memories of that rescue day flooded back, the thunder of hooves, the smell of smoke, the terror in her eyes, and the courage she had shown even when cornered. And now, years later, she returned not as a dependent, not as someone to be protected, but as a woman determined to claim her place beside him. Luke could only nod, his throat tight, realizing that the story of their lives was far from over. As twilight deepened, the girl Ahuli rode alongside Luke, recounting tales of survival, hardships, and adventures that had shaped her since their last meeting. The prairie wind carried her words like music, weaving through the ranch buildings, the grazing cattle, and the distant hills. Luke listened intently, his admiration growing with every sentence. He remembered the courage in her eyes that day, but now it was strengthened, sharpened by years of trials and triumphs. She spoke of lost kin, tribes scattered by conflict, and moments when hope seemed impossible. And yet, she had endured not for herself alone, but for the chance to return and honor the bond they had once shared. Luke's heart, hardened by solitude and responsibility, felt warmth he hadn't known in years. There was a tension in the air, an unspoken connection that neither time nor distance had managed to break. As night fell, they reached the edge of the homestead, where the flickering lamplight illuminated the wooden walls of his cabin. The air between them was heavy with anticipation, laden with shared history, and the weight of unspoken feelings. And in that quiet moment, as stars began to punctuate the indigo sky, Luke realized that some bonds transcend time, danger, and circumstance. That sometimes the past returns not as a memory, but as a living, breathing reality, demanding acknowledgement, courage, and heart. If you're captivated by this story of love, courage, and reunion, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because the journey is just beginning. The following days tested more than their courage. They tested their trust, patience, and the depth of feelings that had lain dormant for years. Luke guided Ahuli through the rhythms of ranch life, introducing her to the livestock, the fences, and the routines he had perfected. She adapted quickly, showing ingenuity, strength, and resourcefulness that impressed him more than any skill he could teach. Yet it was the quiet moments, evenings by the fire, walks along the creek, watching the sun fall behind distant ridges, that revealed the most. Their conversation shifted from survival and practicality to dreams, desires, and the subtle weaving of affection into the spaces between words. But not all was calm. Luke's neighbors whispered about the girl's return, some suspicious, some envious, and even within the ranch, tensions surfaced as old rivals tested boundaries and sought to exploit perceived weaknesses. Ahuli, however, met each challenge with a grace and resolve that left Luke awestruck. The girl he had once rescued was no longer fragile. She was formidable, tempered by experience, and fiercely devoted to the man who had saved her life. Together, they navigated threats, tensions, and the everyday struggles of the prairie, forging a bond that could withstand storms, doubts, and dangers. Their connection deepened with each passing day, a slow, burning intimacy built on respect, shared history, and unshakable trust. Luke's admiration transformed into desire, desire into love, and love into a recognition that this woman was not merely a part of his past, but a partner in every sense of the word, ready to stand beside him in triumph and adversity alike. The day arrived with the sun cresting the horizon in a blaze of gold, casting long shadows across the prairie. Friends, neighbors, and tribe members gathered in a modest ceremony at the edge of the ranch, the air thick with emotion, anticipation, and joy. Luke stood tall, dressed in his best, heart racing as he watched Ahuli approach, radiant in simple yet elegant attire, her eyes bright with certainty and affection. Every step she took carried the weight of years, hardships, and triumphs, and yet the warmth of her smile lit the prairie brighter than the morning sun. When she reached him, they clasped hands, sharing a look that spoke volumes. Gratitude, recognition, and love that had endured time and trial. Their vows were spoken softly, blending tradition, personal promise, and heartfelt commitment, witnessed by those who had seen their journey from beginning to present. Laughter, tears, and quiet celebration filled the space, marking the moment when the past and present merged into a shared future. Luke realized that rescue was not a one-time act, but the beginning of a lifelong partnership, a bond forged through courage, respect, and unwavering trust. And as the sun climbed higher, casting light across the prairie, they walked together toward the cabin, ready to face whatever the future held, hand in hand. If you've been moved by their journey of love and reunion, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because stories like these remind us that courage, loyalty, and heart can transform lives forever.